One of the byproducts I believe that AI has is companionship, as weird as that word might sound. I think whether you feel lonely within a company, within a team, if you're a consumer and you don't have someone to talk to about different issues, I think the most positive quality of an AI system or an agentic system is that you can have a conversation. You can say it, you kind of say it out loud, and have someone that's not going to judge you for what you're trying to, you're ideating on or any of that. And I think brands have an awesome opportunity to bring that conversation out to the entire customer base. And I think the brands of the future are going to be the ones that really go really fast and wide, because you're giving your entire customer base a way to share ideas with you in more of a high-res format.
I'm Sarah Nagel. I've spent my career leading research and product development within some of the world's largest brands.
And I'm Chad Reynolds. I'm a serial entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Vurvey.
And this is AI Powered by People.
Each episode will dive into the latest AI developments and talk to an industry leader to help you better understand and utilize AI.
We'll take you inside some of the world's most famous companies and share examples of how AI is improving innovation, consumer engagement, media, and marketing.
No matter what industry you work in, we'll help you navigate one of the biggest disruptions to organizations and people today. Well, hi, Sarah.
Hi, Chad. How are you doing?
I'm doing terrific.
Yeah?
And yourself?
Good. I'm back from the West Coast finally. It's challenging coming back to the East Coast from the West Coast. You're just like, getting up early for my spin class has not been an easy one to do, but I'm getting there. Anything interesting going on with you?
I did a podcast this past week called it's called The Aggressive Life.
I didn't know you were on a podcast.
Yeah. I'm not like cheating on you or anything.
Tell me about it. I didn't hear about it. Hey, you're hurting my feelings, Chad.
No. So, Brian Tome, who's the pastor of Crossroads Church, which is like one of the largest churches, I think, in the world, asked me to be on to talk about AI. And so I shared just more kind of AI 101 of like, what is it? How can people use it? How we're using it? What we're building. But then we started to get into some interesting questions around, how others might use it, how it could impact companionship. We talked a little bit about AI and just like this innate need in humans to create things. Mm-hmm. Where does that come from? And as things advance, so like farther and farther and farther and farther, what is the concept of God? What is the concept of the universe?
Yeah. Would AI kind of shift people's thinking around kind of this larger force?
I don't think we know.
No, I mean, because we're just getting started and people are just starting to integrate this into their lives. Yeah. I mean, early adopters are starting to integrate it into their lives. So it's hasn't met the mass yet. So it's going to get really interesting.
Yeah, and we talked about it before of just the kind of chatting with, these virtual team members. There's some really interesting behavioral things that are starting to happen. Just referred to as like collaborating with a stranger's brain. You just need a sounding board, and like, what does that mean moving forward? It's just a different interaction.
And what kind of entities will people start to create and start to ask questions or collaborate with?
I think everybody's concept of what is a life or what is living is always put down into like a singular thing of just a human being is a life. Mm-hmm. And that like the concept of like Darwinian evolution of individuals kind of changing and evolving over time, and just the concept that people or an individual doesn't necessarily evolve or change. It's more that the society or the kind of the community around them actually changes versus the individual.
You and I have talked about kind of the idea of like entering the augmented age and we've been augmented for a long time in kind of the tools around us are the things that are providing us not necessarily changing us, but they are the things that are evolving quickly, and we are just like adapting to the technology.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been, Keith, who you know very well, Keith and I usually go back and forth night over night around
our COO. Just
so for people who don't know, we go back and forth a lot overnight around just like what are we, not necessarily the problem we're trying to solve, but the ultimate benefit and what it's doing. And we've been talking a lot about meetings, and just like the idea of the calendar has always existed as a way for us to manage our time, manage a human's time.
mm-hmm.
And so, is that really an effective measure of our value or what we're making when it's always reflected in your calendar? I took a screenshot of my calendar and all the different, it's like 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. You're kind of doing all these things, and it's boxing you in on like your potential.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you remove some of those things and you start to think more, I would say like agentically, but you start to think about, well, why am I waiting until next week at 2 p.m. to do this thing that I know I can accomplish in the next 2 minutes using agents?
And you could potentially reach that, like people talk about the flow state of of thinking, and kind of like if you can just like keep going, keep rolling, talk to an agent, talk to the AI to kind of help you keep thinking and rolling. You could potentially talk to a human, but you just kind of keep moving through that thought and into that flow.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like calendars have the potential to become obsolete, like in this new world. You might still use a calendar to kind of book certain things, but I don't know. Like if I could talk to your agent at any time just by pulling up Vurvey on my phone, selecting you as an agent and starting to talk with you, which I have before. But I might meet with you in 2 weeks when I've got kind of everything, figured out. But I would have interacted with your agent 30 times between now and there without bugging you.
But it's also like kind of how we communicate with each other. Most times when we're not in meetings, it's like through chat or,
Right. Yeah.
Right now it's through like Slack. Like that's how we have those conversations. So it's like, and there's no meetings there. That's just like, it's like 3:14 or something. And we're just like,
No.
Having a conversation. It's not like at a scheduled time.
No. And those aren't really like, I know Slack was trying to do, or not trying to do, I think they are doing kind of the AI summarization across like a channel or messages. And that's fine, but it's not like connected to like work. I think the way that we're using agents is like I'm working within a work stream, and then for it to summarize some of the key points of like, what does Sarah need to know, and then share it with you. But you didn't need to be there for the meeting. It's similar to kind of sending in your otter to the meeting and doing all these things, but those don't talk back. And so these ours do. And I think that is pretty compelling.
Yeah.
To like give you back your time, but not in a way I think people have been talking about AI giving back their time of like doing tasks faster. I think we're giving back time by making collaboration faster.
Well, the higher being to calendars was a very interesting conversation, but I understand how it all connects in a very interesting way, and thinking about collaboration in a very different way, and thinking about what you're collaborating with or who you're collaborating with is going to change. Can I ask you a question about, and this has come up, but like the idea of loneliness? Because the first thought I have is it feels like a kind of a lonely proposition. I'm collaborating, I'm kind of in my own head, and just in my own head, I'm kind of communicating with these non-human, or having conversations with non-human AIs. Could that become a lonely place, or how do you view that?
I think what's becoming interesting are the different modalities of AI. I think we've got kind of screen-based and robotics. There's a whole host of things in between that I don't think we've or people are fully explored just yet. So yeah, I'm not an advocate for isolating yourself, away from people, but can agentic kind of conversations fill in the gaps, and can it help you improve what you're doing? And the answer is yes. There's something happening that I think is really special, where this is opening up a whole new avenue to be creative, to have fun at work again. It's changing organizations. We were always, you've been in, kind of corporate America, the different business functions, and like, no, this is my silo and this is my lane, and I'm responsible for the insight, you're responsible for marketing. They're two totally different things. And I'm like, I know they are, but do they need to be?
Yeah, especially when you like the AI is able to augment you in different ways. Like I may have, yes, I'm a researcher, but this enables me to like think about design in a completely new way, or think about market research, or, financial modeling potentially too in a different way. And I bring a different perspective. So yeah, when you think about a lot of people in an organization that have that ability, all you need is kind of like more like the and you've talked about this, like the want to be always on, and kind of in want to collaborate and want to participate. So if you kind of bring your skill set with, and kind of like and collaborate with the AI, and you create this like hive mind across an organization in a really cool way. So
I agree. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really great segue, because I think we're going to be doing we're not going to be doing an interview this week. We're going to be sharing Chad's fireside chat with Shelly Palmer at the Brand Innovators AI for Brand Marketers Conference in New York. So that will be really great. We'll be able to dig in a little bit with that conversation that you had with Shelly, which is very exciting. And I also saw that he teaches at Syracuse. I went to Syracuse.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Go Orange.
Great spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of stories about the Orange Man.
Were you the mascot too?
He was my my RA, and he was my RA when he got drop kicked by the West Virginia mascot. So shortly after I got there, he was like limping around with some crutches.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the mascot so bad, but industrial design got in the way.
Yeah.
Normally we do the news, but this week we're going to be asking Chad questions from our Vurvey community. So we put out a Vurvey asking, do you have questions for the founder of Vurvey? Are you ready for this?
No, I'm not. This is news to me. So what are the questions about?
There's a lot of different types of questions. All right, this first question is from Corey, and he's got a question about AI in general, because I think you and I have a different perspective on AI because we're living in it every day. But I think Corey, like many of the folks that are listeners, have some questions about AI. So let's hear what he has to say.
Hey Chad, this is Corey in Montana. The question I have is, at what point do we ensure that AI is not becoming too intelligent? And by that I mean, at what point do we make sure that we've got some sort of checks and balances on whether or not it is becoming too smart for the things that we've asked it to do? Thanks so much, and appreciate the podcast.
Hey, Corey, that's a great question. I kind of want the AI to be really smart. I think we're going to have to experiment and see what the boundaries feel like, and see what the boundaries are. But it's one of those things where you might not necessarily know what the boundary is until you see it. I think that some of the things that have been popping out of the headlines over the last few months, with like Scarlett Johansson and the George Carlin controversy, the deep fake, was it like a principal, the principal or the athletic director got into it. I think those are providing some evidence and signals for us to see and understand what is in bounds and out of bounds. for me, I'm excited when AI becomes much more intelligent and helpful to what I'm trying to accomplish. I think some of the watchouts are, just really around automation and just making sure that, we are in control of the AI. We can prompt it in lots of different ways and get the desired outputs. I think when it becomes more autonomous and it's connected to all different kinds of tools, I think that's where, for me, that's where I would slow down and ask some really, really important questions.
When you say automation, can you be a little bit more specific about what you mean?
Yeah, so I think when an AI agent is hooked up to different tools that, I guess, automatically take an action on something. So, for example, if I had an AI agent connected to my bank account, and it did some sort of evaluation, of the market, and then it automatically is buying things like on my behalf. Those are things that I want to be in the loop on, and I think, yeah, there are certain, but there are also other things that may not necessarily be as important to me. The whole idea of like signing up for a wait list, if or booking travel, those types of things. I think that they're going to be use by use or use case by use case basis on which things. But I definitely want things to be intelligent. I just want to be in the loop on particular things.
All right, our next question is from Brian, and Brian has a question about jobs.
I feel like there's a lot of negative talk about how AI is going to be, quote unquote, taking jobs away from people. I wanted to hear about the flip side of that coin. How do you feel like people could better leverage AI to be more productive in their current jobs? And furthermore, how do you feel like AI is going to be creating jobs in the future? Thanks.
Hey, Brian, that's a great question. The biggest impact I see is really in the design of organizations. I think every organization has specific functions that has deemed that were designed because you can only accomplish certain sets of skills or abilities or activities, as a part of a singular role. Because AI now opens up all the possibilities of different types of roles or different types of hats you can wear or access to different types of information or even just skills for that matter, I think can have a dramatic impact on how an organization can design themselves. This might be with fewer people. This might be with people who have multifunctional jobs that just that can collaborate. And I know Sarah, for one, isn't necessarily a footwear designer, but has been designing shoes using AI and is doing it in minutes. So I think it's just giving everybody who's curious about how they can use AI to impact and really 10x their outputs. Those are the people I think are going to benefit the biggest and the greatest from this. It's just giving you a much bigger area of impact that you can have that goes well beyond what might be in your job description today.
The last question is from Catherine C. And she is asking about the future of Vurvey.
I would love to know where you see Vurvey in the next 5 to 10 years. What's the growth platform, and how do you expect to attract new individuals to join the program?
Yeah, I'm really excited about what we're working on now to bring AI agents out to the public. So up till now, agents have just been reserved for the business users. And we're very, very close to launch them for consumers. And so what that means is that you will be able to share your insights and ideas, express all different kinds of opinions you have on different types of topics. And brands could collaborate with your agent anytime and get rewarded without being there. And so what that allows you to do is to give you back your day. So if you want to share on Vurvey instead of sharing, like a picture on Instagram or, going there, you can actually share your insights and ideas and everything inside of our platform. It's all protected. And your agent can be collaborated with by many brands and getting rewarded without even being there. I mean, it's like pretty insane. So we're working on that. I'm really excited about that. I think that could take us in lots of different places, but at the end of the day, the reason I'm excited about it is, I don't know about you, but I have like notebooks full of thinking and ideas and things I've never really done anything with. And you get to plug in and collaborate, mentor people without even being there and having much bigger impact than you can today. So really excited about that. I want to attract more users of the platform by you introducing it to your friends and family. I think that, with technology, especially with AI, there are lots of opportunities and it becomes really exciting. And so we want to create an amazing experience, so much so that you want to share it with your friends and family. That's how we want to grow. And I think the way to do that is to really focus on the experience and creating a great experience for you. And so love any thoughts, ideas that you have on how we can improve to do that. But we want to build the best experience for you. We want you to create a ton of value for you. We want this to be fun, creative, but also rewarding, because your time is valuable.
If you have any questions, go to Vurvey AI and on Instagram, or you can find us on LinkedIn as well. And send us some messages. Send us your questions or your thoughts. We'd love to hear them. All right, let's get to Chad's fireside chat with Shelly Palmer at the Brand Innovators AI for Brand Marketers Conference in New York. I'm excited to see the full conversation. It's going to be great. You ready?
I'm already there.
Hey, Chad, what's going on?
I'm doing good. Day 3.
Day 3. Yeah, it is a lot. So I could not help but overhear the last panel's last question. 10 years from now, what are we going to be doing? I don't know what we're going to be doing in 10 minutes, and I have no way to predict it. But if I asked you that question 5 years out, what do you think?
So I mean, the space that we're working in, and I'll kind of share a little bit more about what Vurvey is, but it's short for video survey. So we're an AI platform that collects stories from people, and we turn it into new ideas, insights, and all those kinds of things. And to answer your question, I just see like where we're playing in. If you take a look at Uber, who made it okay to ride in a stranger's car, Airbnb made it okay to sleep in a stranger's bed. What we're trying to do is make it okay to collaborate with a stranger's brain. And so
Okay.
I think that I think it's just trying to make collaboration more accessible. I think for me, AI has always been about starting conversations that are always on, where the person may not necessarily have to be there right now.
I'm going to be just focused on collaborating with a stranger's brain for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's not our tagline, but
No, but it probably should be. I think, it probably should be. So data and analytics need to be exceptionally good, specifically data hygiene and data governance. And what normally happens is that you can build almost any kind of tool that would empower you to ask a question that begins with the words what or how. And at the moment, it is insanely difficult, if not impossible, to build a tool that would allow you to ask a question that begins with the word why. For that, you need human insight. And what I like about Vurvey and what I liked about it when we first met is that it seemed to automate in a good way the gathering of the qualitative intelligence that might help you answer why in the context of what and how, maybe better than some of the other tools I've seen. And I'd love you to go into just a little bit where the interface where that interchange happens, because I think everybody, if I did Maslow's hierarchy of needs for CMOs, like the CMO triangle of awesomeness, the very top of this would be, how do I keep my job? And the second one would be, how do I drive growth? Because if I drive growth, I can keep my job. But first, they just want to know how they keep their job. So, down the triangle, it's like, I don't know, is the Wi-Fi any good in here? But at the top of this thing, it's like, how do I drive growth? How do I drive velocity at retail? How do I drive velocity? And that always requires an insight, because if it were anything else, everybody would be 100% successful. Discuss.
Yeah. So for the last 20 years, I essentially ran insight teams, agencies that would go out and source insight for CPG and retail. So I would, spent probably 8 years working with Procter & Gamble on, trying to reinvent different brands like Old Spice way back in the day, like 2005. And for me, the most value I got out, like essentially the insights that came through focus groups, creative workshops, consumers were always telling you the answer. It's just the way that we were trying to communicate them to the people who were making decisions usually weren't the people in the room. And so PowerPoint became the struggle of, how do you tell a story that makes someone decide to pursue this move when that's all you had were PowerPoint slides. And so everything became a chart. And so for me, it was, how do you let consumers express themselves through their stories, through video, but also attach it to a quantitative piece. And so, what we tried to do was, well, what if you could create a survey that was as easy as a video or had video attached to it? And so, that's what we created, and it became a joke of just send a Vurvey. And for me, it was always about, how do you build the most inclusive brands in the world? Is you have to figure out what's the channel to connect directly to as many consumers as possible, where they can express themselves, both through, 82% like this, why? And that why is going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of video. And I didn't want to watch all that. I don't know about you, but I wanted to build AI agents that could help watch it, help understand what particular insights are going to be relevant for a particular group, like a product team, a marketing team, a design team. And so you really had to step back and examine the system that, how companies were ingesting insights and feedback, and not forget that you still need a quantitative, you need a number, but more importantly, you need to know the temperature of that number and why.
So the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm just going to push back to torture you because, I get to do that.
Yes, you do.
You built a sentiment engine, basically, that's going to look at the video. Are you taking into consideration facial expressions, magic, voodoo, like some secret sauce, or basically looking at a transcript of the video, sentiment, analyzing it, and moving on?
It's multimodal, so it looks both at the picture as well as what people are saying. Because when people said, do you like this, yes or no, that video, if you just look at the transcript, you might associate, well, they didn't really like it, and here's why. But if you actually watch how they talked, it might be different. You might be getting something different out of it.
Well, yeah, I was going to get to that. So, like, when one of the biggest problems in all of semantics is that movie was so bad. That movie was so bad. That movie was so bad. Like, you don't know whether they mean bad or good. It depends who's saying it. And by the way, it's a 20-year-old expression that no longer holds meaning. So depending on who said it, it could be a boomer saying it, trying to act like they're cool. Like, there is so much not possible to, you can get that wrong way more than you can get it right.
Right.
So you must have some level of facial understanding. And even that, this becomes if you can make that a science, not an art, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, we started to do send Vurveys out of, Shelly, can you share what's in your closet? What are the favorite shoes you love to wear and why? Go grab each item. Tell me a story about the favorite features, how you dress it, and so when you get into people's lives at that, I'd say like very rich level. Not only are you learning a lot more, but you're also able to craft solutions in a much better way that are more reflective of who you are. And so, yeah, for us.
So in a perfect world, everything you're saying sounds great. I'm a marketer. Oh, wow, I can send a Vurvey. Okay, cool. That's your sales pitch. In practice, I'm a human being. What is the value for me? I'm a person. It's like, hey, show me what's in your closet. And my answer is no.
Right.
I mean, my underwear is in my closet. I'm not showing you anything. No, I'm not showing you anything. And what's the like, sure, it'd be great if I could go into the closet of everybody who might want to buy designer shoes if I sell designer shoes. Why would I ever consider getting that personal information to you intrusive, evil, commercial thing that is trying to understand me?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really about, it's a relationship. So I think for many brands today, may looked at insights as a transaction. It's take this survey and we'll give you $5. It's attend this focus group. Here's your gift card. They weren't, not in an intentional way, but it definitely felt as it being a transaction. And I think with the next generation, they want it to be more of a collaboration. And I think AI is the ultimate conversation or collaboration type of tool. So it's a two-sided relationship that I think the big opportunity for brands to invite consumers in as creators, collaborators, co-creators, because it's what they want to do. It's just the systems that we have today weren't designed to do that. Everything was built as a transaction. It was, even just in loyalty, it's spend to get, not we want to collaborate and create something new with maybe you and 3,000 other runners who build the next shoe.
If I am a data scientist, someone who's a professional researcher, I'll say it differently. I am fondly remembering when TiVo, the Kleenex of DVRs, decided that since they had lost the TiVo battle and they were completely screwed, they would sell data. And they had the best set-top box data in the world. Like, if you used your TiVo, it knew everything at a time when TiVo's, like when no one else knew anything. If you had a TiVo, you knew everything. And when the TiVo guys went out to the marketplace to sell TiVo data, they got a rude shock from the research community. Not interested. Why? Because all you're giving me is heavy consumption TV users who love TV so much they were willing to buy a TiVo at a very high cost. They obviously overuse the product, and whatever they think doesn't matter, and it's not representative in any way of anything other than people who own TiVos. Next. Okay, Vurvey, and again, I'm torturing you just for fun. You just told me creation, collaboration, everybody wants to, yeah, you're going to get a really nice group of people who want to do this, but what does that tell me about the greater public, and how does that inform my greater marketing at scale? Discuss.
Well, I mean, I know on one of the talks right before this, someone mentioned, like AI is not necessarily in a can, and that is true. But I think that AI has the opportunity to almost deliver on the promise of Internet of Things, which was that this product doesn't have to be dead on arrival. It can be, you can scan a picture of it and start a conversation with the shoe. You could there's so many different ways to get invited into the process. For us, it's not necessarily about the data, it's about the conversation. And I think every brand that is growing is expanding the conversations that they're having, or they want to. Now, what you get out of that is really up to you. I think for brands, they really have an opportunity to really change the whole idea of loyalty. I think consumers want to plug into that. And I think a lot of people are kind of tired of the TikTok, just watch consumption model, and they want to collaborate. They want to do things. I mean, it's reflective in a lot of the, on like the future of the funnel is, more inspiration, creativity, inspire me, help me express myself. Like that is the future.
You heard it here first. That's the future. Outstanding. All right, let's continue on. So when I'm thinking about building a marketing plan right now using AI tools, I have an orchestration problem and I have an integration problem. I am a CMO or anyone actually inside the marketing organization, and I now have to Go see the CDO, the CIO, the CTO, and say, look, I've got a new tool I'm very excited about. They tell that whole collaboration story you just told me. Sounds great, loving it. Can't wait to go tell that story internally. Forgetting about the CFO, who I've got to go justify with. Say it's coming out of my budget, I'm ready to go. What do I need to do to even start to get this thing plugged in?
I mean, it's really easy. Everything starts with a question. So it's what question do you want to put out to people? So we have a whole network you can launch to, or you can launch to your CRM, or just put the code into your experience and let people essentially answer and get started. So it can happen within seconds. I think the most interesting thing for us is, I think someone earlier mentioned it, was around AI agents. So I think AI agents are, I don't know, just the future of how AI becomes valuable inside of a company. So, rather than all of the video or feedback just kind of coming in as one giant data set, you want to protect kind of the identity of people. You want, you want to train specific. Many people know what an AI agent is? Just by a show of hands.
Show of hands.
Okay. It might be, yeah.
Might be helpful.
So an AI agent, you can think of an AI agent, probably the loosest term is like Alexa, Siri. It's almost like a mini software type of application that allows you to ask it questions. It has some memory. It has access to tools like the internet or files or all those kinds of things, and you can prompt it and get out specific outputs. So a lot of the agents that we've been experiencing over the last decade have been fairly singular, whether it's Siri or I know Dom on the Domino side is.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you use ChatGPT or Meta AI or Claude, any of the tools right now that you would consider generative AI, you are giving it a task. Even if you're setting a goal in the context window, you're still giving it a task. You're acting as blank, your audience is blank, here's the problem, solve it. You're telling it what you want. It's going to give you an answer to that question or a series of answers to the series of questions. An agent is short for autonomous agent in the context of this conversation. So we're talking about autonomous agents. The cool kids phrase, the new vocabulary word for everybody in this room is agentic. If an AI product is said to be agentic, what it does is it acts on its own to accomplish a goal, not a task. Write a bedtime story. It could be a tech stack of 12 different types of AI. There could be a large language model sitting at the bottom that has the entire corpus of whatever the story is going to be about. Everything ever written about Harry Potter, everything ever written about Lord of the Rings from the entire internet. The next thing on top of that might be an image generator that's a diffusion model or a transformer diffusion model that may make images based on your query. The next thing in there might be a voice generator that gives you Ryan Reynolds to read this to you, a clone of that voice, or a clone of a deep baritone British voice to give it gravitas. The next agent might be the next in the stack might be a neural network, and that neural network could be a good old-fashioned network that's just looking at what you're doing and feeding back to it and saying, okay, I'm learning from you in real time, which large language models don't do. They have no capacity to learn from what you're doing. They only can react to what's in the context window. They are pre-trained transformer networks. And so when you make something agentic, or when you build an AI stack, when you build a product that has agency, what we're saying is it becomes an autonomous agent. Now, orchestrating and tooling this, by the way, GPT-4, like 4.0, is a whole bunch of AI tools all glommed together by our friends at OpenAI. It's not one thing. It's not like there's no such thing as GPT 4.0. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that's put together that gives you the output of GPT 4.0. So there's a concept, a future concept that says that we are going to have agentic tools to do our bidding. Next week, Apple's going to have WWDC. They're going to announce some better version of Siri that is somehow agentic. Hey, Siri, do this. if it has access to Apple Pay, if it has access to Apple Health, if it has access to your contact list, if it has access to what you did in a given app, like the Ticketmaster app or the AMC movie app or whatever other apps you give it or it asks to be accessed for, then you would be empowering it to be agentic. It would have agency to do your bidding. Now, how far this goes is anybody's guess. It's on the cool, creepy factor right now, right? All of us have a line in our world: cool on this side, creepy on that side. When it comes back and says, "Hey, Shelly, you're talking to Chad on stage tomorrow. These are the 4 things he likes best. Make sure you mention it." That's cool. "Hey, Shelly, you're talking to Chad on stage tomorrow. By the way," and it says something that's not cool, and it's like, oh, maybe that's creepy. So agentic or agency is a critical term. AI doesn't really become useful until it is agentic. You're not going to let it be agentic personally until you're sure that it's going to do the things you want it to do. In the context of Vurvey or any AI tool, agency is different. Agency is the ability inside a B2B environment with all compliance, all constraints, all risk mitigation factors, all SOC, all of that dealt with, so that the tools itself can work autonomously. And if you want to see it in action right now, procurement is buying pencils for big corporations that way. It's 10 approved vendors. They're out of pencils in X number of days calculated by the algorithm. And it goes and puts a bid out for pencils, and some other computer on the other side says, "We got pencils at the lowest price." And I'm simplifying it because that's how it works. There's no danger there. This has been asked and answered 1,000 times. So whether it's AI or it's just like a little difference engine that's looking at the inventory levels of pencils in the stationery department, doesn't really matter to anybody in this room. This has been asked and answered. And it's important for you to know the difference between agentic AI that's going to literally creep you out on the Turing test and have a personality and actually be a partner of yours, and a business tool that's going to take a set of surveys, throw them into your CRM and let you analyze it. These are not the same thing, but they are the same thing.
Yeah.
And this is what the problem is. They are exactly the same thing, and they're not the same thing. And you're going to have to explain this at the company. You're going to actually have to stand up and make this case. I want agentic tools for my marketing. And anybody who's read the Wall Street Journal or watched a news item on 60 Minutes, which is always crap. Yes, CBS, I'm talking to you, and I'm right here in your house. No, they never get it right. They never get it right. And so you've got CFOs that don't know tech. You've got senior business leaders that don't know tech or are reading consumer trades about the end of the world through AI. And we're sitting here going, "Man, you've been using this stuff for 10 years. We're not doing anything different." The part that's different isn't that part. So don't be afraid of agency. You're going to have to embrace it. But take a few minutes to deeply understand what agentic tools will mean to your business, because they are critical. Sorry to take this much time out of your...
No. This is important.
But this is such an important distinction, because if you get this wrong, no one's letting you deploy anything, because they will just... The cool creep factor isn't, and it doesn't exist in the boardroom. The cool creep factor, it's not cool creep factor there. It's risk mitigation. Where does it sit on the risk scale? And the compliance officer and the general counsel, you're going to just run headlong into no, because no is the safest answer. They're always going to say no first. Always. I wouldn't say no for anything other than that. Be empowered to go do this. Yeah. Anyway, Chad, back to you.
No, it's good. Just to share maybe a couple stories of how brands are using agents, because it might kind of bring to life what Shelly just talked about. So if you imagined that you sent out, Vurvey or whatever, set out to collect, from 2,000 runners about the shoe of the future, all their different needs that they wanted to have. What that data and information could be, could feed is an agent to represent all the data that was collected, so that you could talk with you could have a conversation with that consumer segment. Traditionally segments have kind of exist as a PowerPoint slide. So like, meet Sarah. Here's the bullet points. Here's what she represents. Here's her favorite things to do. And then the next thing is like the whole team was like, well, how do I design for Sarah? She just lives on a slide. And so, well, what if you could have gone out and collected 2,000 stories to feed that one agent, and then you can actually have a conversation with Sarah, even though she wasn't there. And so what we're doing with a lot of brands is bringing their segmentation to life. It's all based off real data, but the entire team wants to talk to Sarah all at the same time, and they want to do it at 10 p.m. after they put the kids down. So for a lot of the brands, we're deployed across CPG, so like a Dove Skincare can talk with consumers even though they're not there. It doesn't expose any of the PII, which is really important. You can also use agents and orchestrate them together in a really powerful series. So if we're running pilots right now where we're designing new shoes, not those, but where you could create an agent that is a footwear designer. It is a retail marketer. It is a 3D developer. And feed it all the data, and it's designing the product and writing stories and claims and benefits as it goes. And that can happen in 10 minutes compared to the 4 months it might take to concept a new product. And for us, it was really important to have the good data in, good output. So that was the really important part. So just a couple of stories to kind of like bring agents to life, because it is a super powerful and also very confusing topic.
By the way, if you want to do something really fun, I don't know how many of you spend a lot of time inside of conversational AI. Context windows have gotten relatively large over the last 5 weeks. Gemini, depending on which version you have, can either have 1 million to 2 million tokens in the context window. Some of the other models are up to 125,000 tokens in the context window. What this means, if you're not familiar, is that it just allows you to put pages and pages and pages of data into the context window itself without having to have a vector database, without having to have other fine-tuning. You can just literally throw pages of data into the context window. What Chad's talking about is they've they've built a way to take data from a survey, a very special kind of survey with a very special kind of sentiment analysis, and put it into this environment where you actually can talk to the aggregate personality of your target persona, which is awesome. But if you don't have that yet, if you're not a client of Vurvey's, and by the way, I have no financial relationship with Vurvey, and I'm not in any way shilling what they're doing or telling you to buy it or not to buy it. But what I am telling you is that if you've got a ream of sentiment analysis from any part of any data that you have about a target persona, and even if you just have the description of the target persona, like even if you don't actually have data to support it, try this exercise. Remember, every prompt is crafted. You are acting as your audience is. Here's the problem set. This is how you craft every prompt. Go super deep on telling it. Remember how you put the mood board up on the wall and it's like, this is Sarah. She's a 20-something so-and-so. She's got a small labradoodle that goes in her whatever. She likes to do this, this, this. She wears designer shoes. In fact, her whole closet's filled with, and you name the like 6 shoes. Like, you go as deep into the persona of this target as you possibly can. We used to have whole rooms with mood boards up for every possible target. Put all that into the context window. And then say you're acting as Sarah. You literally say it, and then say, just start a conversation.
It's been amazing it's been amazing.
It's mind-blowing.
Teams. Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. It's even better with real data. I'm not saying it isn't, but if you don't have real data, it takes on the persona that you have given it, and it will talk to you about it. We did something really fun a couple weeks ago for a client. We're building a music discovery tool. We told the API in a massive pre-prompt, but you can do this with ChatGPT or any of the consumer versions. You're acting as bebop, the genre, it's 1956 and you're in a Greenwich Village cafe listening to, and we listed the bebop musicians, and we gave them the actual genre of music a personality and told it that we were going to have a conversation with it. And then we started talking to the genre of bebop about what the artists are of the day and what the culture of the day was and what it was experiencing in 1956 in Greenwich Village as it was evolving as an art form. This kind of nonsense will expand your mind as a marketer. When you start like using these tools this way, the output may be unusable, and probably is, but where it's most useful is making you think in a way you wouldn't have thought before. Chad, I'm going to give you the last word. We got a couple minutes left. What do you want to tell this nice group?
I mean, just from a marketing perspective, I think there's just such an opportunity to invite the customer, the consumer, into this experience. Most of the Gen AI tools are used, more internal, but we want to put them in consumers' hands. Imagining that it wasn't just your voice to express an idea, but they had actual AI tools to show you and tell you at the same time, and help co-create new concepts, new ideas. I'm just really excited about that space, but also the role that brands can play in more of the loneliness epidemic that we're in. And one of the byproducts I believe that AI has is companionship, as weird as that word might sound. I think whether you feel lonely within a company, within a team, if you're a consumer and you don't have someone to talk to about different issues, I think the most positive quality of an AI system or an agentic system is that you can have a conversation, and it's just a really powerful thing to. And I think what's going to change the behavior of lots of people is that you can say it, you kind of say it out loud, and have someone that's not going to judge you for what you're trying to, you're ideating on or any of that. And I think brands have an awesome opportunity to bring that conversation out to the entire customer base. And I think the brands of the future are going to be the ones that really go really fast and wide, because you're giving your entire customer base a way to share ideas with you in more of a high-res format.
Sounds like a drop the mic moment. Ladies and gentlemen, Chad Reynolds from Vurvey.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of AI Powered by People. The show is produced by Steve Berkowitz and brought to you by Vurvey. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Tuesday.